Thought I'd just make an installation video on how to put this in. So I guess the items you're gonna need, obviously the 3D printed parts, but I used 6 gauge screws for the countersinks. You're gonna need 2 1/4. That's actually for the bracket. I wouldn't recommend doing anything bigger than that, or else you're gonna start. You can see on the top left there's a screw hole from a 2 1/2 that I put in too deep into the bracket. But then you're gonna need 2 of the 2-inch ones, and then one of like a 5 or 2 of a 1 5/8 for the smaller cup holder. You're gonna want to drill an impact. Either one will do. I mean, it doesn't really matter how powerful it is, just as long as it can put a screw into plastic, drill out plastic. You're gonna want a 3/8 bit and a 5/64 bit, and then a Phillips. You're also going to want a mini ratchet. The one I've got, if I can find it here, is from Milwaukee. I think Klein makes one. You could also get the, I guess the right angle screwdriver. They kind of look like an Allen key, but this is going to be for actually putting the screw into here. You could also use a right angle adapter, something like this. You are going to need the right angle screwdriver ratchet because this isn't going to fit very big, much in there. So you're going to need to tighten it a bit first, and that's what these countersinks and pre-drilled holes are for. So completely forgot to make mention of it when I was doing the video. Filament requirement. You are going to want to use PETG as a minimum pretty much. I'd recommend ABS or ASA if you can do that, if it's not too much of a headache. I ended up using a carbon fiber PETG just because it was matte, but you're going to need almost the entire roll. I think the bracket ended up being 300-ish grams, and the cup holder ended up being 320. So just about a whole one. I've got some extra left over here. I did have my print fail a few times, so you've got a bit of leeway to kind of try out what you want. And if you do mess up the bracket, I mean, it's super simple. It's printed in 2 pieces, so you should be able to try again once or twice maybe if you mess up. Now for the screws, I was able to pick all these drywall screws up from Ace Hardware. You're able to just pick them out. I ended up using fine threads. I was worried that the coarse threads would cause some blowout like they did on the, I guess, the demo model I had. So I ended up using fine threads for these. It should be fine. I mean, it's only ever going to be holding up like 2 pounds at the max anyway. But I chose drywall screws over wood screws just for the fact that they're already black. You don't have to paint them. And black and black would look better than black and silver. So first order of business is to get the 1 5/8 or 1 1/2 around there, and the 2-inch screws. And we are going to be putting them just barely through these holes so that we can line it up with the bracket. Just push it against there lightly so we can get our pilot holes drilled into it. So let me quickly just do that. So I printed this at 0.2 resolution and it turned out pretty good. I did the fuzzy skin on it just to match the dash, but the countersinks and the holes modeled in should allow you to just kind of hand set it in first. Then I'm going to take my ratchet here. Kind of hard to do with one hand. See, I've got the first 2 in there in the big cup holder, and the reason I picked 1 5/8 for the smaller one is you can see I'm just barely able to get that ratchet in there. And even though on the top that screw is barely going to make any contact, my prototype already didn't have any screws in here and it was holding fine. So realistically, all these are going to do is just keep it from moving left and right. Alright, so now I've got all of these screws just tightened enough for the sharp bit to poke out the end. Now I did have a bit of a problem with this one. You might be able to see I scratched it just a hair. It did, all of these tightened pretty easily, but I would still recommend, even if it printed well, to pre-drill these out with the 5/64 bit, just to make it slightly easier when using that ratchet. So now that we've got that, I'm going to take the back bracket piece, put it in there, take the front one, and this one's a bit of a tight fit, but it's in there now. Now I'm going to line this up, garbage truck, with roughly where it's gonna go. You can see, just follow that curve there, line it up, and just lightly push in a few times. And that's going to make your areas where you're going to drill your pilot holes. So now that you've got these marked out, what you're actually going to do is we're going to mount the bracket in. This is just going to tell us where we can't put our screws. I didn't put any countersinks or screw holes into this. I figured that I would leave it as stock as possible for people trying to put other things there. So you're going to have to do the hard part. If I could find my 3/8 bit, that would be terrific. But we are going to have to drill our own pilot holes. So 5/64 bit, wherever I put it. So I went ahead and found my bits. I don't have a 5/64 longer than this, but I figure it'll be fine. I'm going to just go ahead and say put one here. And I'm going to put one here. Now, I'm going to take my 3/8 bit. I think anything around this size will work. Whoops! That's going to be for the countersink. I might have drilled way too deep for that, but it'll be fine. So, now we're going to take our longer bits, and hopefully I didn't drill too deep. Let me get my Phillips real cut. Get the other one. Just double check I didn't drill through the dash. That would not be good. Oh, and it appears my Phillips bit fell off. So here we go again, round 2. Wow, that went straight through. No, she's in there. Now you'll notice it'll bow out a bit, but that's fine. That's going to be sort of mitigated when you put the cup holder on. Since it's bowing out from the top, this is going to not allow it to go down any further, so I figure it'll be fine. If you are printing this for something else to be mounted here, I would recommend doing, I think I had 8 bottom layers on this. I'd recommend doing 16, I don't know, and just 30% infill. And that way you don't go straight through the plastic like I did. Well, there we go. I put more screws into the dash, and very nondescript manner here. I tried to prevent it from just totally blowing out. I did tighten them a bit more than I should have, just to get it flat. I'd recommend doing a larger bit for the countersinks, or just modeling them yourself. I'm too dumb for that, so I just tightened them. You won't be able to do that if you did a higher, I guess, bottom layer amount. But now I'm going to drill the pilot holes for the cup holder, and they don't have to be super exact. I mean, the screws will find their home pretty quickly. Try not to ream them out unless you've got coarse threads. I didn't do coarse threads because they didn't have anything lower than 8 gauge in coarse threads. So once you've got that, you can retest your cup holder, and it should sit pretty flush now. Now I would recommend getting some sticky foam or sticky tape. You can see I did scratch the dash a bit. There's going to be some here and there. I'd recommend just putting some of it wherever you can. Not just to protect it, but it also make the tolerances a bit better, make it less prone to moving around. But it's totally optional, it's up to you. And before I finish the installation here and sink those screws all the way in, I'm going to talk about the print for a minute. So I printed this sitting this way. You could, I guess, also print this way. I mean, that's what I ended up doing with the demo here. I mean, you can see where the layer lines are, maybe. But turned out pretty nice. The print failed where the supports meet the top of the cup holder, so there's a bit of a dirtiness in there, but you're not likely to see that. I mean, I'm actually really happy with how this top turned out. I mean, it's a lot better than the previous one where you can see the layer lines, but printing at a diagonal really did help. I would recommend doing the fuzzy skin. It just kind of matches this texture here. Not super well, but it's going to help it look more of an official dash piece. But you could also forego doing it. It's going to half your print time, so if you don't really care, just go ahead and turn that setting off. Alright, so I've got the top one just tightened barely enough to keep it in place. And this is why I'm going to recommend you get a right angle adapter, is rather than doing this for the next, 10 minutes, you could get your impactor drill, get a right angle adapter, and then just tighten it enough to where you can get this in there. See if I can actually record this happening. You're going to want to be careful when you do this, or else you'll absolutely strip the screw out. But wow, that's got torque. Let's see if I can film this. Probably not. I think that's good enough. You will need to be very careful when you do this. Extremely careful. And then I would finish off just hand tightening it. But yeah, once you've got one in, the rest become a bit easier. Alright, I've got the first 2 screws in there, and I'm actually pretty happy with how those countersinks turned out. I totally guessed on those, so that's good. But it's in there. You can forego these if you really wanted to. I mean, like I said earlier, they don't provide much actual structural support. They really are more just to keep it from going left or right. But let me just go ahead and finish that. So here we are, the finished product. You can see the top does bow out a bit there. I'm not too worried about that. I'm pretty lazy and I don't really want to try to figure out how to fix it, but I mean that'll hold. I mean, if you know how heavy those are, I mean realistically that's kind of way more than any drink you put in there, but I mean, yeah, finished product looks nice. I did scratch it a bit. And I guess another thing I should probably mention is when you are using this little ratchet, when you're going side to side, just try to avoid hitting the, you can see I kind of dented it a bit, but if you don't really care about that, then just go crazy with it. But overall, I mean, I think it turned out nice. I mean, it's in there. I'm not going to reef on it too hard, but I mean, you can see it'll bow out your entire dash before this thing comes out. But I mean, there you go. 20-30 minute installation if you're lucky. Happy installation.